correspond. So I'm going to show you selections from 5 films or musical pieces tonight. The first one, I think most of you are probably familiar with. It's the most popular one I've done to date. It's called One Grain More. And this is a musical. This is a parody of the musical Les Mis about having food allergies, which honestly should have been the original plot. So this is One Grain More. And I do think, I'll say what I think is special about One Grain More. And comedy in particular in dealing with these issues is you take an issue that for a lot of people has caused them nothing but distress. And for once in their life, they're on the inside of the joke. And they can laugh about the thing that is their biggest problem in life a lot of the time. And I think there's nothing more therapeutic. So I'm going to screen these. I'll start with that one. I'll probably pause in between each one to take a question or two and then move on to the next one. And then we can do Q&A with what time we have tonight. All right, here's One Grain More. Thanks again for being here.
One grain more, a dash of millet flour might be the key. This never-ending road to gluten-free. This horrifying food I eat will never taste the same as wheat. One grain more. One grain more, a teaspoon of some time from God. And still it tastes like bacon soda.
From a cartel,
It's a heart.
I spent my days confused,
Alright. It's so good to see you, Quinoa. You're the protein source I chose. Still, you look as if I've seen God hopping out of someone's nose.
Let's celebrate, try to make it whip. Now what do we use instead of chocolate chips? Carrot doesn't work, carrot is a trap. Anyone who's having something tastes like that.
When the house
Stop the carrot, today and now. Why does it smell like something died?
Oh, but fine cheese, typically
Do you hear the people sneeze and call and please go now? One day more, so we took sorry. It's time, nobody says it's time to go to me. When you're the electric shock, still, tomorrow we discover insanity and things powerful. Wish me luck.
Did someone order a pizza?
That is One Grain More. Anyone have anything you want to know about One Grain More?
How many takes did it take?
Oh my God. Well, I don't even remember how many takes exactly, but I will tell you, when you're doing anything with lip syncing, 9 out of every 10 clips I have to throw out just because somebody's the slightest bit off, and you lose a lot of really great footage just because, like, you know, it takes you out of suspending your disbelief. So a whole lot of them
So why was it lip sync instead of live? Was there a particular reason?
You can't get this kind of quality, if you're doing it live, especially if you're doing individual takes like that. So like the Les Mis movie, which actually is what helped get this viewed. Les Mis put this on their website. Like I hadn't planned it this way. Yeah, I released it just as they put the movie out. So it's great. The Huffington Post being like, Russell Crowe sucked. Listen to Michael Bihovsky. I'm like, all right, that's new. So that was just kind of lucky, but they had to play through and do the entire number because otherwise, like it would just be so many different cuts. It'll sound different in different rooms. There has to be complete silence, and you would need the instrumentals would have to be in earbuds in your ears, or else it'll bleed into the microphone. So it's really hard to do.
Over how long a time period was it?
It was supposed to be 1 day. It took 2 days. My parents will love this story. Or they've forgotten.
Sure they didn't.
So we got all the day shots done in one very, very long day. And we thought we could accomplish it all. And we were very, very wrong. So I needed to bring everybody back. There were some people coming from New York. Most of the cast were my students, actually. I used my voice and acting students a lot. Then we needed to do the nighttime scenes, and we realized it was going to take a very long time. So we had to black out every single window in the house.
I do remember.
My parents' house. We may have destroyed a lot of things. A lot of grout. What's that? Stucco. But so we had basically an entire, probably like 14-hour day for the daytime scenes, and another 14-hour day for the nighttime scenes. And it's just like, if you look at those shots, in the film itself, I believe there are 39 different clips, and every single one of those took at least a half hour to do. Unless they were like, it was the same exact setup that sometimes we could do both together. We were in 3 different locations. Yeah.
Who cleaned up the floor? I wanted to ask.
I believe we all. So what I loved about this cast, we had 4 people in the cast, plus a cameo from Bernie, who said, and then 3 people doing camera and lighting and production assistance. And everybody, honestly, though, did a little bit of everything for this film. It was just a passion project. We were all really excited to make it. Lily co-directed it with me and just had so much of value to add. I'm very good at big picture things. So when I do a film like this or any film, I write out an incredibly specific shot list. Like at this particular second, you cut to this on this word, and it lasts until this word, and here's what happens. I can do that, and I'm talking about like, okay, let's both have you dip your fingers in and taste it, and then it's gross. Lily's contributions are so much more specific. She's like, it'll be so much cuter if we wrap our hands around each other. And like, there's so much in that and in everything I made that wouldn't be there if not for the incredible people that kind enough to give me their time and talent. Yeah. No.
Where do you teach?
Where do I teach? I have my own private studio. I've been lately teaching primarily on Zoom, sometimes singing lessons on Forte, which is like Zoom, but specifically for music lessons. Yeah, if you, my website is michaelbihovsky.com, and if there's voice and acting lessons. So yeah, mostly I teach film acting these days, which is actually where a screen is very useful. So. All right, one from Danny, and then I'll hop to the next one. Yeah.
Overweight.
Mhm.
All right.
Where are they now? Megan is Eponine, or as we call her, EpiPen. Which, by the way, I've gotten so many letters from strangers on the internet saying like, that's not her name, it's Eponine. I'm like, how? Yeah, the internet is an excruciating place. If you haven't experienced it, I don't recommend it. I've gotten some weird things. People, a lot of companies mailed me free food after this, which was great. I'm Jewish. Both those things are awesome.
Yeah.
But somebody mailed me spaghetti and meatballs in a bag, which my father ate. I think that was an assassination attempt by Bill Luton. Yeah, so Megan's still doing it. Megan's so good. I'm actually using Megan on one of my new projects, which I'll be showing in a bit called Senses. She plays Emily. Michael, who plays Marius, has gone on. He's a physicist and but still does community shows. And Lily is in England, and she's doing something in the arts, but she not much, but All right. So my next one is called Paperweight. Paperweight is a poem initially that I wrote for the pandemic. I thought as soon as the pandemic happened, I thought one day this is going to be extremely useful advocacy, because we'd be able to say like, hey, remember that time you couldn't leave your own home and see your friends, and you were constantly aware of your own fragility and mortality, and you had no idea if your dreams in the future would happen or what your future would look like at all. Well, there are a whole lot of us who live that way all the time, and I thought it would be a wonderful window into that. So I made Paperweight, and then somebody convinced me to turn it into a song, and then somebody convinced me to turn it into a music video. And I wrote it about the experience of being disabled during the pandemic and feeling like once all of this is over, I'm still going to be here to some extent. For someone I was seeing at the time, who I'd actually been seeing a year earlier. And it was kind of this question of like, what are we doing? And everybody's dating when we're 6 feet apart in a park. This is Paperweight. I'll let it speak for itself.
Walk with me, my love, beside a stream I've known for ages. Flows the way it always has, its wheels seem to change. Walk with me, my friend, beyond the trees, beyond the speed. Each one can touch, would you stay to? You're as fragile as me. Windows are made of glass, so what will it be? If a moment wasn't meant to last, is disease the wall that keeps you 6 feet from my heart? Or is it something more? We used to be something more. Time has always flown, but we have never seen it frozen. The passing and it's always mine. The dream we dream behind. And when we reach the other side, still paved the way, still petrified. Will I remain alone and still infected? Time and time again, I said I've known you for forever. Remember's not that long ago, so hide themselves away. If we can be strong, just find our way together. And then I find the words to make you stay. Oh, I hope you can see. The dark will turn to day. Hold on to me now. Might not ever slip away. The virus takes its hold, and those who live might not survive. We're still playing with our life. Time has always flown, but we have never seen this frozen. It passing as it slowly flies, the dream we dream to hide. And when we reach the other side, still paved the way, still petrified. Will I remain alone and still expected? It's a big land, somehow more can still be taken. It's like tears and when I went gently lost in and when we reach the other side, still made the way, still petrified. Will I remain alone and still expected? To reach, to want, to know. But when the world returns, I alone affected.
So that's Paperweight. I want to recognize somebody very special here. This is, can you stand up for a second? This is Jessie Searman, who acted in that with me. And who was also my assistant director, and none of this would have gotten done without her. Both the actual filming of it, which we had a director attached to it. I had to jump in because he disappeared at the last minute, and Jessie's friend Evan came and did that beautiful cinematography. But also just having Jessie there to make sure that I actually kept doing the work, because it was a monster of a project, and that it got done. And we submitted to 12 film festivals. We were screened in 11 of them. We won best film in 4 of them, an honorable mention in them.
Wow.
So I'm very familiar with that piece. Thank you, Jess. The one thing I want to say there also is, did anyone see the Queen movie Bohemian Rhapsody? I really related to the line in that when Freddie goes off on his own. Freddie Mercury is a huge hero of mine, and he doesn't do as well. And I said, why not? And he said, there was nobody to tell me no. This girl's not afraid to tell me no. And it's really helpful because I have some really dumb ideas, and she saved me from the worst. So thank you, Jess.
My pleasure.
Anyone have a question on Paperweight? Yeah.
So you said that that was a poem originally. So how much does one have to do to convert it to, you know, a chorus?
It needs a lot more structure. Fortunately, the lyrics to the chorus are almost identical. So I think the poem, if I say it, it'll probably be like it doesn't have the same momentum behind it. Let's see, it was walk with me by love beside a stream I've known for ages. It flows the way it always has. It's we who seem to change. You're as fragile as me now when ghosts are made of glass. But even if we two could touch, would you still want to? Time has always flown, but we have never seen it frozen while passing nonetheless. Stolen, this stream we dream beyond. And when we reach the other side, still paperweight, still petrified. What might I mean to you? Tomorrow is a mystery as we live our lives in history. And I know that if you kissed me, I could die. To reach, to want, to yearn, when the world returns, I alone remain. So you see how it like halts a lot more in different points. Some of it just, you know, da-da-da-da. If it's got a set meter, that's pretty easy to convert. But also the entire contents of the poem only make up one verse and chorus. So then I had to go, well, what else is there to this story for me? Then I'm writing entirely new content. All right, let's jump ahead. Yeah,
First of all, I've never seen that. That's amazing.
oh, thank you.
Beautiful song. Who did all these special effects and filmmaking? All the
We all kind of stepped in on the
People
idea.
disappearing. Amazing.
smoke.
So I hired there's only one actual special effect. The others are actually, I wonder if I have this. It's kind of cool. We did some what I'd call theater magic in terms of everything except when she evaporates into dust. So I did a little clip of what that actually involved. Well, how we actually did it was a little less glamorous.
Oh.
Frank. I think that's it. Runs this way. I think I.
That was good.
And then Evan and I sat in on a meeting. I'm very lucky to have an incredibly talented and extremely successful film editor friend named David Jacob. And he had a meeting with me and Evan, and it's like, okay, he gave us the 3 ways that it could be done, and then we found the one we could do on our budget. So for the actual disappearance, this half of the screen and that half of the screen, it's the only time the camera's on a tripod. And on this half of the screen, it's one shot where she's just not there, she's just run off and it's empty. And on that side of the screen, it's still me reaching out to her when she was actually there. And then I handed it off to the special effects artist in Sweden. Maybe Switzerland, I forget. It's called pixel animation. And I was just like, hey, can you make her disappear into smoke and not make it look too much like Avengers Infinity Game? And he did. We did. Yeah.
If I recall, you originally wanted to do it in Wissahickon Valley Park, but
Yes.
then moved it to,
Oh, yes, if you didn't recognize it, I filmed it at Marion right down there. I filmed it at Marion Park right down there. So the issue, there were a couple issues. The main issue is that Philadelphia was going to charge me $700 a day for a permit. And I wanted to do this correctly, because especially for making a music video, if somebody complains about noise, they'll shut you down. And then I just put months of preparation into nothing. So I wanted to make sure I had a permit. We also got like insurance. I remember saying to you all, like, hey, please don't hurt yourselves if you're going to mouse So it was when I went to Lower Marion Parks, they were just so warm and welcoming. They were like, just give us $150 and you can shoot as many days. And they were just wonderful and so helpful. And I knew the park a lot better, so it narrowed down our options. But yeah, it would have been cool. All right, I'm gonna jump to the next one. So this is an interesting one. I describe this is either the dumbest thing I've ever done or the most creative, and I'll let you decide. But I spent 72 hours. It'll be the lead character in Senses, which is a musical about neuroplasticity, which is about the brain's ability to rewire itself under various circumstances. The main character is a 24-year-old girl with borderline personality disorder, who just like her father funded the study and kind of like got her this back door. But the doctors don't want to deal with her. They want to deal with people with a real problem. It's the one they can see. And all she begs to do is just put me inside the fMRI machine. I want to see what they're about. And they don't do it, and then finally the doctor agrees to do it, and while he does, she'll see it. And then he's going to see the results, and once he can see, a regular MRI can do this, but an fMRI, a functional MRI, it shows exactly how much blood flow is going to different areas. And you can physically see a lot of mental illnesses. And once the doctor, who's a surgeon, who's kind of a narcissist in that show, physically sees how different her brain is, he actually breaks down the brain. And that's the end of it. It's his own brain changing. That's how it changes. So yeah, I think it'll be cool. Yeah.
Very, very beginning of
Yeah.
Yes.
So part of it, I went on YouTube and found open source clips. Oh, and I just sorted through until I found the sound that I heard. Some of it I couldn't find, so I had to find like on a synthesizer, like, okay, what reproduces this? So I would say it's probably half of it. And it's ultimately. Yeah.
where are you actually, you're not in an MRI machine. So how did you achieve that look? And at the very end, there's like a little saliva, which makes it just somehow look much more realistic. And did you intend that?
Yeah, I left that in. No, I didn't intend that. I'm just on so many freaking medications that my mouth is always dry. But I had hoped I would be able to get a tear out of that one. And then I watched it back, I'm like, well, I guess spit will suffice. We've all had that fun. But no, yeah, I did see that, and it felt very haunting to me. It did make it feel very real to me. So even though it was like a little bit gross, I did read that intentionally. How we shot it was just, I mean, extreme close-up, largely for that reason. I had a white sheet laid underneath me, and then for those of you who know Matthew Dorsch, who is now a middle school principal at Barrett, he's my oldest friend, and he is just a genius at coming up with things like this. And so he invented a rig for the camera that would hang down from my microphone stand so that the camera could be suspended directly above my face. I think I have a picture. And it was very clever. And maybe I can talk about this. But yeah, like he just using rope. I was terrified because it's a stick camera I saved up for one. But he managed to do it in a way that it was totally safe. And honestly, watching like my expensive camera like right above my head that could fall at any moment, it helped with the fear. All right, the next one is from Senses. So this is a live performance that I did at a Barrett Cabaret back in 2014. So as I mentioned, Senses is about neuroplasticity. So there's a character named David, who was a staff sergeant in the Marines during the Afghanistan War. And he had been a violinist prior to enlistment. And while he was in Afghanistan, he just dove into action to protect his men from a grenade. And he lost his auditory nerves in the process, not just his hearing, but his capacity. And I was reading, the way I came up with a lot of the characters and storylines for Senses is I read a lot of, I spend most of my free time reading that. And there's a really interesting study that had just been done in mice where they replaced their auditory nerves with their ocular nerves, and they were still able to hear and see with 60% efficacy. And I was like, maybe at some point they can do that with humans. And if so, then you can use parts of the brain that were mapped for something else, and they can become kind of commandeered for another purpose. So that's what I base this on. And this is David getting his hearing back for the first time in 10 years.
Jumped on a grenade to save some people and lost not only his hearing, but his auditory nerves, his capacity to hear. And his song, he's just hearing again for the first time in 10 years since I remember music from Sense. I hear you. Tall, bell tone, I remember lyrics rhyming, churches chiming, and laughter for tears. I remember people swaying as I was playing. The song went on for years. I remember finding out my gift in life and knowing it was mine. And I remember losing. I remember making choices and women's voices and dancing through the night. I remember guns and roses, the sound explosive and the electric slide. I remember never once imagining all of it could die. And I remember Papa sighing and Mama crying when I went home. I remember towers falling and honor calling, and then the final roll.
In service to my country, in service to my friends, in service to an Armageddon that I was born to wed. And if I do, I'd lose my life. I'd do it all again. But life without music is empty. Life without music is dead. Life without music's a bridge made of anger, a silent and hopeless refrain. I can hear her cry as the dawn shines. Remember.
Notice that I'm putting my hand about that. So ultimately, I think the way that I'm able to do this and hopefully have an effect on other people with it is ultimately this is my therapy. I make something not with the like, oh, how can I do this in a way that's going to be appeal to these people in this way? I trust that if an experience is real to me, that the human condition is universal. And I've learned that the more specific you get, the more universal it becomes. So I write these things for myself, and then I just maybe change a few lyrics around. At the time that I performed that, I had just come off of a year and a half where I was not able to play piano because of torn cartilage in both of my wrists. And that's where I wrote the song out of. It was my first song that I was able to write again. And I wrote it from the perspective of, I just lost music for a year and a half. It may have been forever, and maybe it will be at some point. So I wrote it largely for myself, and then in my acting, Stanislavski method acting talks a lot about substitution. So like, I don't know the experience of what it is to be deaf and get your hearing back. I do know what it is to lose something that is my greatest love and get back. So I use that in all of my acting, that I just like, well, it'll be true for the character because it is the same emotion. And then that segues me nicely into the last thing I'm going to show tonight. This film I'm very excited about, and it's a non-musical film. You should be excited too, because other than a few people at a couple of film festivals, the Utah International Film Festival and the Zion's Indie Film Festival, where these are screening, one currently and one next month. You're the first people who get to see this. So a few months ago, one of my acting students in Utah, Kayla Pollock, came to me with an idea for a project. Now, I tell my students that they should make their own work because it's the best way to create opportunity for yourself. It's also the best way to just gain a deeper understanding of every area of your Kayla's father is deaf, and Kayla's first language is sign language. And during the course of her life, she's heard some genuinely shocking and ignorant things said about her father, in front of her father, about the deaf community in general. And she wanted to make a film that showed people what those things were. So every negative thing you hear in this film, no matter how outrageous it seems, is something that Kayla herself has heard in actual persons. But she also wanted to showcase the beauty of the deaf community and deaf culture, and to show how much opportunity there is for connection between people who can hear and people who can't, and just generally how much there is to gain when we choose to love somebody who is different from us. Because there's always, always so much more that we have. So Kayla wanted me to write this film with her. The idea is all hers, and fundamentally, this really is her film. She directed it. She plays the female lead. I've never actually met Kayla in real life. She's always been on my screen. But she brought me in to help shape the story arc and to help craft each line of dialogue so that it would feel a little more personal and poetic, but also that it would feel like something people would actually say. And this was a really special experience in collaboration for me, because unlike everything else that I made, I just wrote a bit And then a few weeks later, I got to watch the movie. It was awesome. I didn't have to make it. That's way hard. I promise you. So the film itself, the full film is 20 minutes long. I'm just going to show you the last bit. This is I Choose You. And it starts with this man named Noah, who's in college and has fallen in love with a deaf girl named Sarah. And he is bringing her home to meet his parents for the first time. Also, I'm so proud of Kayla. This is the second film she's ever made. And it's of stunning quality. She actually just got nominated for Best Actress also. It said Best Woman Film.
Hello, I'm so glad you could make it. Oh,
Oh, Sarah's death.
oh, I'm sorry. You don't look deaf.
This food is really good. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you.
So, want to know how we met? Sure. I met her at a party my first night. Actually, it was that night after you guys dropped me off. I just had to meet her, and now here we are. Why don't you just wear a hearing aid so you can hear? Dad. This must be new since this is the first time Mom and I are hearing about it. Oh, actually, we've been dating for about 6 months now.
You can't be serious. What? You're gonna marry her?
Mom, what are you talking about?
What if you have a deaf child? How will you communicate and take care of the poor thing?
Thing? What is wrong with you? Being deaf is not a bad thing.
Yes, it is. Do you even know what that will do to our family? I won't have a relationship with my grandchild. Is that what you want? How could you do that to me? Noah, sit down. If you go after her, you will ruin this family.
You ruined this yourself. No, Noah, get back here.
Get an next on picture. Can we get the lights back on?
Yeah.
Any questions on that? Choose you. Yeah, see.
Well, one of my favorite movies of all time is
Coda.
Coda. Won the Oscar for the best movie. So that paved the way. Hopefully,
Actually, I haven't seen it.
sorry,
I actually haven't seen it.
it's a beautiful movie of a deaf family except with a girl who's a translator and conduit to the rest of the world.
Check that out.
And she wants to be a singer.
That's nice because there's a German film I love called Silence. That's about a girl with two deaf parents and she plays clarinet. And they literally can't understand why this matters so much to her. So that's one I want to.
What's all of the deaf
Beyond
characters in Coda are played by deaf actors.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal.
It's been great that we're seeing a lot more representation of so many different groups of people. And that's something I'm certainly grateful for, and it's partly why I'm so committed to this of what I'm doing. So many of us, even me a lot of the time, frankly, can't really tell our stories because we physically don't have the ability to a lot of the time. I spent yesterday in the emergency room. Now I'm here. My life is extremely unpredictable, and at one moment I can go from putting my career together to all of a sudden I just tore my cartilage again. I'm not sure what the next year of my life is. So I think for that reason, I don't notice from my perspective, I feel like one of the people, arguably the largest minority in the world, and that's people with disabilities, people with chronic illnesses. First of all, 50% of Americans have at least one invisible chronic condition. 25% have more than one. And with a few exceptions, nobody talks about it. You're not even supposed to talk about it in real life because it bums people out. Not the right people. And I think it's so important to be able to frame that conversation, and I feel so frustrated with my own condition and what it prevents me from doing, but also so grateful that it's given me something important to say. And thank you all so much for taking a look. I think we still have a few more minutes left if people have any other questions about anything you've seen about what I'm doing. Yeah, like
Where was that Cabaret film? I don't remember that location.
it's the cafeteria.
I thought you were.
You were there.
I saw you on the screen.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you were the star of the film. You did 2015. Yeah.
I have a question. Did you read Fourth Wing and what do you think of the heroine?
I haven't heard it.
Okay, Violet Sorrengal, who's the heroine who rides dragons as TV.
Okay. It's I did not know that was the condition because I did see the attention. given
But
to
the
that.
author does. No, it's been the #1 bestseller book for a long time.
I believe that.
Say it again.
I didn't know they.
Fourth Wing.
Oh, fourth.
It's a fantasy book.
No wonder I heard it.
Yeah, actually, a show actually that does, you don't really think about it this way until somebody like mentions it, but a show that actually did amazing things in terms of giving stories to people with various disabilities is actually Game of Thrones. Fantasy is a wonderful place to be able to process things in a world that's just different enough to be a little bit escapist, but similar enough that we're still dealing with the same subject. So I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, yeah.
One question and a comment, the last two pieces you said, you were talking about how they've been entered in all these film festivals, not many people have seen it yet, so if we want, is it available on, how would one go about seeing it? I know people would be interested in it.
Thank you. That actually gives me an excuse for something I almost totally forgot about, which is, so the reason why it's not publicly available yet is the criteria for a lot of film festivals is that it can't be available publicly to be considered. So we haven't released it yet for that reason. So what I was going to say, we certainly will eventually. And it's a lovely, that was about half the film. But the first half of the film is just so beautiful as they get to know each other, as Noah teaches himself sign language. If anybody's interested, if you're not already on my mailing list, many of you are, and that's how you got here. But I have sign-up sheets here, and I will most certainly let you know when those are available. That is the reading of that.
Yeah.
I'm commenting.
Yeah, and then,
Mailing list here for any.
right, a lot of people with a disability or in some group, when they're first getting into, media, you know, the first, for example, gay people on TV were sort of like, oh, look at how funny it is because they're gay. And then only later now we see characters that are, you know, in some small group, and that's just one of the things about them. It doesn't define them as a person. So I think in terms of deaf people, somebody commented that the West Wing, they had one of the characters in West Wing.
She's Joey.
Yeah, Joey is deaf, and you know, and it's discussed that she's deaf, but that's not the most important thing about her.
I agree completely. I've noticed that arc too, because I think it took, I mean, there was a little like kind of a pendulum swing where you're right, like first just like let's not bring it up at all, then it's like it's the butt of the joke, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that. And then it kind of becomes stories that are like focused only on that, and there is tremendous value to that too, obviously. But yeah, personally, I think it's lovely that we got to a point where very often it's just like, oh, and also this. My friend Jackie has been watching a series called The Last of Us right now on HBO. That's kind of a zombie series, which usually I'm not into. But they in one of the episodes they have deaf kids, one of the characters. And it's great to see different people getting not just tell their stories, but yeah, just to have it be kind of incidental because we all have something. Every Jesse.
Are you working on anything right now? And do you do that?
I would love to. What am I working on right now? The main show that I'm working on right now, which some of you were at the last presentation, I think this is called Through a Screen. It's actually kind of an expansion of the thesis that I have set up in Paperweight, even though Paperweight won't actually be in this. So it's a pandemic musical from two characters who never meet in real life. The entire show takes place on a weekend basis. I've been workshopping that at an organization that is a really cool place called Musical Lab. I'm a programming director there, and we develop new musicals in Philadelphia. So that's the main one I'm working on right now. In terms of film, I have, again, I still want to have some organization I can connect with who can just offer me some of the resources because I have the material. I have so many films I want to make musical and non-musical. It's just what becomes tough is like any one of these things, especially like Paperweight, One Grain More, they're 300 hours of my time. Paperweight was actually 5. So I'd love to make more of them, and obviously you're on so yeah, if anybody knows anyone who might want to help. Any other questions? Thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for coming. We have a lot of programs the rest of the year.